Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy and your favorite fraud, Gardiner, the Linux Gamer. This video is brought to you, as always, by my gracious Patreon contributors. This video in particular, I want to thank WebFreak for his continued support. Thank you, WebFreak. I couldn't do this without you, and your support is truly humbling. I'm recording this late at night. I finally got through finishing all of the Linux Game Jam games, and I wanted to take a moment and thank everyone who has participated in the Game Jam, and for those people who've participated in all or some other of the Game Jams that we've done. We've done 3 Game Jams now. We had a pretty good turnout, more than last year, which is pretty good. So here's the deal. What I wanted to do was get Cheeseness. He was able to pick 5 games that stood out to him, and for the sake of brevity, I decided I would pick 5 different games than the ones he picked. I let him go first because really he's the professional here. And we're going to cut back and forth between his favorite games and my favorite games from the jam. And keep in mind as well that a lot of the games that he picked, I actually am a big fan of as well. But like I said, I wanted to have to feature more games than just rehashing what he picked.
Hi, my name's Cheese, and here are some of my favourite games from this year's Linux Game Jam. Deadline Delirium is a point-and-click adventure putting players in the role of a Game Jam participant who faces computer troubles, uncooperative shopkeepers, and dead mice on their way to making what I assume is a point-and-click adventure that puts players in the roles of a Game Jam participant who faces computer troubles, uncooperative shopkeepers, and dead mice on their way to making what I assume is a point-and-click adventure. In Deadline Delirium's short duration, Vladar manages to capture some of the charm and zaniness of classic point-and-click adventure games of yore, where unexpected outcomes and aha moments balance out to give a sense of being on an adventure. Even without its reference to the spicy meatball saves the day, Deadline Delirium definitely caught my eye.
So the first game that I picked is There's Still Snow in Lapland. It was created by Green Beak Crow. It has a visual aesthetic that reminds me of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. There's like a surrealist, like photo manipulation kind of thing going on. I really dig the way this game looks. There's no information on if the game is procedurally generated, at least from what I read. But basically what you need to do is roll your way to as far as you can get, and you're scored based on 3 different criteria. So you're scored based on the distance you traveled, you're judged based on how fast your top speed was, and you're judged on the size of your ball. And it's just a fun game. You have multiple things that are acting against you. Like the faster you hit the ground when you're rolling with momentum, the more you're going to lose when you hit the ground. You're also competing against the ever-present heat of the sun. You don't want to end up losing all of your snow. But at the same time, the snow starts to melt, and based on how far you've gone into the level, you end up not being able to recover. And I really dig this game.
Inspired by the card game Dominion, Wizard's Dominion puts players in the role of a wizard's apprentice, who must defend the land against an attacking dragon by casting spells, managing finances, and buying protective shields for villages, keeps, and castles. At its heart, Wizard's Dominion is a deck-building game, with trades and spells ultimately influencing what's in a player's deck and shaping the probability of what will end up in their hand. Nemoda has included a handy in-game legend, which allows for the game's impressive library of tokens to be deciphered and reduces the amount of knowledge needed to play once the core game mechanics are understood. More than any other game from this year's jam, I found myself coming back to play Wizard's Dominion again and again.
All right, my second pick is Maze Flyer. Maze Flyer is a terrific 6 Degree of Freedom shooter game. It has a gorgeous procedurally generated aesthetic, very minimalist. It has a couple similarities to other 6 Degree of Freedom shooters that I've played. The mazes are completely randomized. The game requires a ton of strategy, and if you're not careful, you'll end up getting killed immediately. One of the things about this game, it has the inverted control stick. So the right look control stick ends up up is down and down is up, and that kind of is confusing as hell to me. You would think that it would make sense for a 6 Degree of Freedom game, but boy, oh boy, I could not get the hang of it, and I ended up dying more times than I won. But I played this one on the live stream, which, you know, there'll be a link in the description for that if you wanted to check that out. It's a great game, and I truly enjoyed flying around and having a good old time. That one's from Fractal Games.
Water Closet puts players in the pants of Walter Chambers, an average fellow transported to a strange world populated by spikes, traffic lights, coins, and a lavatorial transport system. On the surface, Water Closet seems like a simple platformer with some helpful tip prompts that provide light amusement along the way. As the game progresses and it reveals its cloning mechanic and increasingly challenging level design, it's clear that there's something more here. The sheer number of stages alone in Water Closet is impressive, and the way that the mechanics are introduced evenly across the game while maintaining a consistently steady difficulty curve reflects Parallel Reality's experience as a long-running game studio.
So up next we have Kernel Panic, which was created by Code Torex? I don't know. So one of the things about a game jam is that you rarely end up completing a game or having a fleshed out experience. And there are definitely some features of Kernel Panic that are missing or lacking. But the thing that it achieves is, it presents a real-time strategy style game, and it does so with, with the barest of minimums, but it does so competently. There's resource management. You can control groups of units to attack enemy units. Overall, I think it's one of the prettier games from the jam this year, and it's also really, really fun. Now, there are things missing. The AI is not constrained by resource collection, and it's pretty single-minded. It just creates a unit and sends it at you and kills you. So this game is really a prototype of things to come. And, I honestly would love to see more of this game, because real-time strategies, I'm a particular sucker for real-time strategies. And I really, really enjoyed playing this. It's fun, even with it not having a complete experience, and it's really good.
Rushed Cut invites players to find and trace patterns on a 10x10 grid. Every time the pattern is successfully matched, that portion of the grid disappears, leaving players with increasingly fewer options to draw the next pattern. Successfully clearing patterns rewards time and unlocks a limited ability to rotate the patterns or restore parts of the grid. Once a score target has been reached, players can progress to a fresh level while keeping their score. Rushed Cut is part shape recognition, part drawing, and all panic. It took me a little while for me to fully grok all of the mechanics, and some of the in-game numbers are a little hard to read, but once I got the hang of it, Rushed Cut had me hooked.
Next up, we have Frame Skip, which was created by Boudreaux. So this game is a horror game, and I'm kind of shocked that I'm putting it on my list, because horror games are not my jam. But there was something so fascinating about this game that I had to put it on my list. This was one of the few Unity titles that was submitted this year, and it has a visual flair to it that I just found awesome. The fact is, it's a pixelated dungeon crawler, and you're being chased by this little monster guy, and you have to find your way to the goal at the somewhere in the level. Every time you reach the goal, you end up increasing the speed of the game. So basically, the monster can move faster and pursue you. Also, I found out through the live chat when I was streaming this game that the monster can actually move through walls, which is cheap as hell. And I ended up getting really freaked out when I got caught by the monster for the first, second, third, and final time. I love this game. It was truly fun, and I really enjoyed it, except for when it scared my pants off.
Although keyboard controls are a little wonky, Cursed Platformer is easily one of the most charming submissions this year. Players guide their avatar on a terminal-based journey through a variety of challenging levels, facing down monsters, spikes, and unforgiving platforms to reach an oddly flaming pyramid. Cursed Platformer's aesthetic, level, and narrative design all work well to give a cohesive and enjoyable experience. In spite of a team member being unavailable, Samsai and co were able to pull in some Creative Commons licensed music from Kevin MacLeod, which supports the atmosphere well. I might have struggled with some of the more aggressive bats, but I loved every second of it.
Now, up next, we have 2D Golf, which was created by Blendy93. 2D Golf is an incredibly interesting, the style of the graphics are just fantastic. It appears to be vector-based graphics, kind of like 90s clip art. The dirt texture here is... it reminds me of like the Gus and Eddie podcast, like the 90s aesthetic, you know. I really like the way this game looks, but even more than the way it looks, I like how it plays. The game is like the QWOP equivalent of golf. You end up with really funky, almost no gravity rules going on here, and I just thought that it was fantastic. So there's only 5 levels, but I really dig the levels, and they ramp up in challenge really fast. So yeah, great job, Blendy93. I thought that this was a great entry. I'd love to see more development of this. Next up, we have Wayfarers Rest. This was intended to be a multiplayer online RPG type deal, and it's done with REST requests, and that is actually phenomenal. I found that to be just the most amusing thing. When I was playing this, I actually opened it up in Firefox because this game is a browser-based game, and the game server is fully REST based, and so you end up with XLR requests all over the place. And I started trying to take it apart, and then Cheese was like, "How about you just look at the source code?" So the thing is, I've never seen a game that relies on a REST server for its game server. And to be truthful, the game doesn't particularly play well. You end up moving your guy, one tile to the right, and the server resets him back to a different place. And, that's something that could be resolved with proper development and given more time and maybe a budget. But I found that this was such an intriguing idea, and as a web developer, as someone who uses and writes RESTful APIs, it's to be honest, I thought that this was a fantastic idea, and I would love to see more development of this game. It's just great. So good job, Zach Stevens. Good job. I am seriously impressed by this, and just the idea and the execution. Even if it's not perfect, it is fantastic, and I approve. All right, and the final game that I'm going to highlight. Now, this was something that at first I didn't understand. At first, I thought that it was just kind of like a prototype, but the more I looked into it, the more I realized how deep this game goes. And for a game that was created in 10 days or less, I am seriously impressed. So this game is Mind Mages by Tolasher. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The game, you're basically playing a top-down shooter, but what's very interesting about this game is that it has crafting mechanics. Now, a lot of games have crafting mechanics, right? But this one, was created in 10 days. And there are many recipes that have been added. There are many types of objects you can craft with. There are tons of spells, and there are multiple types of enemies, even hidden enemies. And that is just impressive. Also, all of these objects, all of the things in this game have stats available. And the assets were made by the creators of the game. I want to applaud Tolasher and the team behind this game, because it's super deep for a game that was created in 10 days. And it's really impressive. So great job, guys.
As with previous years, there have been so many fantastic submissions, and it's been enormously difficult to pick out just a handful of favourites. Everybody who participated did fantastic work, and I can't wait to see which projects continue to evolve and grow outside of the jam.
All right, well, that's our list of our favorite games, the games that stood out to us during the Linux Game Jam 2019. Pretty soon, we'll have the Linux Game Jam 2020 details made available. We've created a Discord server specifically for the Linux Game Jam. We've also created an official Twitter account. So if you want to follow those accounts and get the latest updates for the Linux Game Jam 2020, head over. There's going to be links down below, and we'll get you set up. I really want to see more development of these games and all the other games that were created during the Game Jam this year. I would love to see one of these games become a polished retail release. That would just make my life, honestly. If you have submitted a game to the Jam and you want to get my personal feedback, you can reach out to me on Twitter. You can reach out to Cheeseness. I'm sure he'd love to give you feedback as well. I'm very interested to see what you guys create. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who participated. I hope that you had fun. If you believe in the work that I do, you can support this show with a monthly contribution over on Patreon, or you can pick up a t-shirt. There's a link down below. But no matter what you do, whether you hit that like button or share it with your friends, don't forget to subscribe to see more from me, the Linux Gamer. And as always, thanks for watching.